Welcome back to part 2 of this Baccarat series for this week. Day 2, back at it. Again, starting off with a pretty hefty hand after our significant win on day 1. I'll just kind of show everyone again, starting off the same amount that we left off with on day 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 25, 50, 75, 76, 50, 876, 50 here. Everyone, again, I'll just do a quick spread showing amounts. So without further ado, we're going to get into it here. Again, just following up with the same rules as the last session. Playing Baccarat here. 5% commission on the banker. $50 table minimum. And we'll be starting with a brand new shoe here. So without further ado, let's start with our burn. Burn 5 cards here. Start with just a easy 50 there on the banker table minimum. Player starting off with a 1. Banker starting off with 2. Player will pull a 3rd along with the banker. Banker will take it with 3. 35, 45, 7, 50. We'll let that go there. Actually, push it up to 100 there on the bank. See what we can do. Now, as I'm going through this, and for this session, we're going to kind of take a, since we are up, we're going to take a conservative approach and have a stop loss at what our typical original buy-in would be, which was 300 in the last video. So our stop loss will be 300, and the gain we will keep at 300 as well. Player with 1 will draw and advance to 6. And the banker will draw as well, but not quite there, staying at 4. That is a player win. We'll put another 100 out there. Player starting with 1. Banker starting with 1. Player stays at 1. Banker will reduce to 0. That is a player win. So being down roughly 150 right now, so don't want to be out too early. We will throw just 50 out there now. Player starting with 2. Banker will have a natural 8 there, giving us another, and we will actually pay the commission this time. Showing 250 there, and get us that even payout. I got a feeling the player is not far behind here, so we will switch it up and go player there. Player starting with 0. Banker starting with 3. Player will stay at 0. Banker will draw again. And that is a banker win. Again, roughly down that $150 there. But we'll advance to 100 on the player. Player starting with 2. Banker, another natural. Can't run out too quick. Throw another 100 out there on the player. See what will happen here. Player starting with a strong hand at 7. Banker only with 1. Player will stand there. Banker will draw, but will not quite make it there. Only at 5. That is a player win. We'll drop that down back to 50 at the table minimum. Player only starting with 0. Banker starting with 4. Player will draw, advancing to 4. And the banker will draw as well. Reducing though to 3. That is a player win. We'll actually switch that up. Keep that out there at 100 and we'll switch it to banker. Player starting with 6. Banker starting with 6. The player will stand on that, and the banker will also stand on that, and that is a push. Player starting with 5. The banker will have that natural 8 there. Again, we will actually just pay the commission here. Again, $100 out there, 5% commission, getting us an even payout there. And we will pull that back and reduce this back to 50. Player starting with 5. Banker starting with 5. The player will draw, reducing to 0. The banker will draw as well, staying at 5. Push us to another $37.50 out there. 35. 45. 47.50. We'll switch it up to player, see what happens. Player keeping at 1. Banker starting strong with a 7. And the banker will stand while the player only advances to 5. That is a banker win. Put another 50 on the player there, see what happens. Player starting strong with 7. Banker only strong with 2. Banker will draw. Unfortunately, it is not enough. And that is a player win. We'll let it go there, actually, and push that 100 onto the banker side. Oof. Player starting with the natural. Can the banker do it as well? No, he cannot. We'll push another 100 out onto the banker there. Player starting with 4. Banker starting with 5. The player will draw. Reducing to 2. And the banker will stay there with a banker win there at 5. Again, we'll just pay the commission here with 5. Even pay then. And just for the heck of it, let's leave all 200 out there. Let's see what happens. Player only starting with 2. Banker starting strong with 7. Player will draw, advancing to 9. Unfortunately, the banker will stand on that 7. And that was a rough one there. Let's get rid of some of these 5s though. We'll throw another 100 out there on the banker. Player starting with 2. Banker starting with 5. Or player starting with 0, actually. My bad. There. Misread that. He will draw. Staying at 0, though. And the banker will stay there at his 5. With a banker win. Again, we'll pay the 5% commission here. Gives a nice even payout of 100 there. We'll take all those 5s off. Reduce us back down to the table minimum of 50, and we'll put it on the player. Player starting with 0. Banker with a 3. Player will draw. The banker will draw as well. And the banker will keep that 3 and hold on to it. Unfortunately, that is a loss, though, for us. We'll put 100 on that banker. Or actually, we'll keep that 50 on the player. Player starting with a 3. What will the banker have? A 2. Player will draw, advancing to 5. The banker will draw, advancing to an 8. That is a banker win again. Unfortunately for us, though, that is a loss on the 50. Seems that banker might be on a hot streak, so we'll push another 100 out there on the banker side. That is a 4 for the player, 0 for the banker. Player will draw, reducing to 0. The banker will draw as well, and just squeaking out 1. That is a banker win. Again, $100 out there. We'll pay the commission, $5. Get us that even pay there. And we'll drop us back down. And we'll actually switch it back up to the placer. Player starting with only 0, not good for us. What will the banker have? Banker is starting with a 5. Player will draw. The banker will stay there at his 5 with a banker win. I'm kind of going back and forth here. Well, we'll take a quick break here. Again, just for a consistent simulation. Those, I know it is kind of hard to keep track of all this, but we'll see where we're at. Is if this were a real casino too, we would probably end up foregoing one of the hands, which we will play out after count. We'll color up this $1 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 650, 675, 7, 725, 745, 749. So roughly down there. I think we'll pick it back up. We'll play through the rest of this shoe and see where we end up here. Again, folks, that's roughly a $120 loss, but we'll keep it going. The banker there again, like I said, actually, if we were counting in an actual casino there, we probably would have foregone a hand. So that is exactly what we were going to do. Just play out a hand as if there was no bet. Player starting with a 3. Banker starting with 0. The player will draw as well as the banker, which would have ended with a banker win. And now we'll put our 50 back out there on the banker and let's go. Player starting strong with a 7. The player will stand on that 7. And the banker starting with a 3 here will draw. Unfortunately, it is not enough, though. And the player will take that. We'll put another 100 out there on the banker. Player only starting with 3. Banker with a 1, unfortunately. The player will draw, reducing to that 1. The banker will draw as well, pushing out that extra 2 to a 3, and that is a banker win. We'll pay the commission $5 there. And we will reduce back down to 50, and we'll push it to the players. Hopefully this switches up. Player starting with a 3. Banker starting with a 7. Player will draw, catching up to that 7, and that is a stander. The banker will stand on a 7 with a push tie. Now some of you might be asking in that case, oh man, 8-1, should have bet the tie. Again, if you play at any actual Baccarat table at a casino and if you look at the board, typically the tie is not going to be there. And the way, in my personal opinion, ties are typically a sucker bet. So we will go on to the next hand, keeping that 50 on the player. Player starting with a 2. Banker starting with a 5. Player reducing to 1, unfortunately. With that 5, the banker will stay there and capture that win. Unfortunately, that was a loss for us, though, betting on the player. And we'll kind of inch it up there. 100 on the banker. Let's make it happen here. Player starting with a 0. Banker starting with a 5. Player will draw to 9, though. The banker will not draw a 3rd, with the player capturing that victory. Again, that is a loss there, unfortunately, for us. We'll put 150 out on the banker there. Player starting with a 4. Banker starting with a 7. Banker will advance to that 8. Fortunately, the banker will not draw a 3rd, and the player will take that win. Again, we'll do one more hand here at 100 on the player, and we'll see. We'll do a count after just to make sure where we're at. Again, we don't want to be kind of going over our stop loss. Player starting with a 6. Banker starting with the 5. The player will stand on that 6, and the banker will draw, pushing to that 8. That is a banker win. Yeah, that's a loss of $100 there, unfortunately. So we'll do another count here just to make sure. See if we hit our stop loss, which I think we might have. It might have actually gone past it, actually. Only 300 left there. Fortunately, 300, 75, 85, 90, 394. Unfortunately, we will have to take our stop loss there. Does not look like the hand is the shoe is going our way. We will take the loss, unfortunately, and with that, the night will be over. Hopefully, we'll come back tomorrow, and it will turn out better for us. In the meantime, though, we will have to say goodnight.